The wealthiest man to ever exist on this planet. When we talk about wealth and luxury, we usually think expensive cars, huge yachts, private jets, and caviar for some strange reason. But before the era of technology, before the Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk of our time, there was a man whose wealth far surpassed all. In fact, he was so rich that you could say his wealth was 10 times more than that of Musk and Bezos combined. He was so rich that his worth was described by the BBC as simply indescribable and incomprehensible. No, we're not talking about the biblical King Solomon. The wealthiest man to ever exist was none other than Mansa Musa, the Sultan of the Mali Empire. So, who exactly was he? What treasures did he possess? And how much would he be worth if he was still alive today? Stick around to find out, but first, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Let's dive right in. Musa the First, or Mansa Musa as we know him, was the ninth Mansa, that is ruler of the Mali Empire. Bear with us while we give you a brief history lesson, but if you really want to know about this guy and his riches, this part is important. The Mali Empire was an empire in West Africa that existed from 1226 to 1670. The empire was founded by Soudita Keita, the prince of the Mandinka people who reside in the area presently known as Mali. According to history books, a war took place in 1235 between Suman Guru Kante, the king of Soso, which is an area located where present-day Ghana is, and Prince Soudita. After the prince's forces completely annihilated those of Suman Guru Kante, he founded and was crowned emperor of the new Mali Empire. As you'll soon come to know, the empire became renowned for the vast wealth of his Mansas, and none could underestimate its growth and influence. The Mali Empire actually grew to become the largest empire in West Africa, and it greatly influenced the culture of the region through the spread of its language, laws, and customs. The Mali Empire was truly a paragon of strength and power at its peak, and of course, the person that rose it to such eminence was none other than Mansa Musa. Musa Keita was the great-nephew of Soudita Keita and the empire's ninth ruler. He was born around 1280 AD during the Keita dynasty into a family of rulers, but he didn't come into power until 1312 AD when his brother Mansa Bakr gave up the throne to his brother and went on an extravagant expedition at sea. Apparently, he'd always been fascinated with the Atlantic Ocean, and we suppose once his little brother turned 32, he just couldn't sit on the throne anymore without going for a grand adventure. He reportedly left with a fleet of about 2,000 ships with thousands of men, women, and slaves, but he never returned. That amount of ships and manpower certainly means Mansa Bakr had enough money to not only fatten his pockets, but also to ditch pockets altogether and easily fill multiple swimming pools with them. But despite his vast wealth and that of most, if not all of the Mansas, none other is talked about than the riches Mansa Musa accrued during his reign. The kingdom was already rich in salt, gold, and land, over 3,000 kilometers of it from the Atlantic Ocean to modern-day Nigeria to be exact. To give a clear description of how big their territory was, the ancient kingdom of Mali spread across parts of modern-day Mali, Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea, Nigeria, Chad, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso. That is essentially half of all the West African states. During his reign, he never lost a battle, although in many cases territories joined the Mali Empire willingly due to the higher quality of life. Mansa Musa inherited a kingdom that was already wealthy, But he didn't sit back, drink wine, and feast like the king he was. Instead, he set to work growing his kingdom and its resources. It is estimated that, at that point, the Mali Empire was the largest gold producer in the world with ownership of more than half the world's total supply. Having all that gold, along with the salt and land which have made him as rich as his predecessors or only slightly richer than them, which is why Mansa Musa took the time to expand trade between Mali and other nations. His riches came from the mining of salt and gold deposits in the Mali kingdom. His mining of these treasures earned him the title Lord of the Mines of Wangara, and from those mines near the forest south of Ghana and many others did his people get the gold that made his kingdom prosper. He also added elephant ivory to the items he traded, and that was another major source of wealth, easily making Mali the richest kingdom in Africa. Because his coffers allowed it, Musa also built schools, library, and mosque. This helped establish Timbuktu as an epicenter for culture and education. With all that gold and power he could ever need, it's no surprise that Mansa Musa knew how to flaunt his wealth. Musa had a vision, and that dream was to get his name out to the world. Despite its size and worth, the Kingdom of Mali was relatively unknown outside of West Africa, and with his kingdom being unknown in other regions, the Mansa himself was unknown, and that just didn't sit right with him. Having control of the greatest kingdom at the time simply wasn't enough. He wanted everyone to know he was the man who had single-handedly brought Mali to its territorial peak due to his conquests and wise business decisions. As a devout Muslim, he already planned on making the Hajj or going on a pilgrimage to the Muslim Holy Land of Mecca, so he probably thought, why not kill two birds with one stone? The perfect opportunity had presented itself, and he wasn't going to let it pass him by. Mansa Musa really flexed his wealth in his 6,500-kilometer desert pilgrimage. Despite the great show of opulence he put on, that wasn't even half his worth. Before we get into Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe, and ring that notification bell for new updates. That said, let's get back to it. Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca took place between 1324 to 1325, and, to this day, it is known as the most extravagant pilgrimage in human history. According to records, the Mansa left Mali with about 60,000 men and women. This entourage included different ranks from his court, from royal officials to camel drivers and slaves. As a sultan, he wore the finest of robes, of course, but Mansa Musa simply couldn't have the people representing him be decked out in rags. His entourage was also dressed head to toe in expensive Persian silk, a yard of which could cost up to $59.95 today, and gold brocades. It wasn't only the important members of his court that had fine clothing, even his slaves were dressed in finery. The camels that made up his caravan numbered about 100, and each of them carried 300-pound bags of pure gold. The current price of a pound of gold based on market prices in 2022 is $22,372. This man not only had even his lowest of slaves dressed like mini royalty, but he also had his camels carrying $671,160,000 worth of gold on his way to worship. This story doesn't end here, folks. Mansa Musa might have been rich, powerful, and affluent, but he never let that stop him from being good to his own people and others. The Sultan was well known for his generosity, and one story that exemplifies this is the story of his stay in Egypt. As the legend goes, while Mansa Musa was in Cairo on his way to Mecca, he met with the Sultan of Egypt. During his stay there, his caravan spent and gave away so much gold that gold became a common resource in Egypt, such that the overall value of gold in the city decreased for the next 12 years. It is said that he gave beggars huge ingots, overpaid workers at bazaars, and tipped with fistfuls of gold dust. Musa also asked for a new mosque to be built so he could pray there every Friday. In addition, he made formal charitable donations of 1,250 pounds of gold each at Cairo, Mecca, and Medina. It is estimated that Musa gave away at least 71,000 pounds of gold to those three cities and his huge donations. Albeit generous, caused hyperinflation so devastating that it also impoverished those great cities for almost a decade. 71,000 pounds of gold today would cost roughly 1,588,412,000, and Mansa Musa gave it away without even batting an eyelash. It seems like Mansa Musa finally got his wish of having his name spread as far as wide as possible. In 1375, it was clear that stories of the Sultan and his luxury reached Europe when the Catalan Atlas was created by Spanish cartographers. The Catalan Atlas is a medieval world map, or mappa mundi, that has been described as the absolute zenith of medieval map work. Due to its detail, it is known as the most important map of the Middle Ages in the Catalan language. The Catalan Atlas shows West Africa dominated by an illustration of Mansa Musa sitting on a throne, holding a nugget of gold in one hand and a golden staff in the other. After this atlas was published, Mansa Musa was well recognized as a strong and affluent figure all across the world. To answer an important question asked at the beginning of this video, how much would Mansa Musa be worth if he was still alive today? His estimated wealth would be around $400 to $500 billion. As a comparison, Jeff Bezos has a net worth of only $118 billion. Mansa Musa was 57 when he died in 1337. He was succeeded by his sons. Being the Sultan he was, his rulership left his empire well off at the time of his death, but eventually it fell apart. Mansa Musa didn't have your modern-day mega yacht, private jet, and personal holiday island, but he did have enough gold to buy those things over and over again with enough change to spare. Even though his empire is long gone, he left behind a legacy as the richest man to ever exist on the planet, and that alone has fulfilled his vision of being known by all. What do you think about Mansa Musa? Does knowing his worth astonish you? Or do you think someone in this era could reach his level? Share your thoughts with us in the comments.